The snow was coming down sideways when Victoria Sterling laughed. "Try not to crash it," she said, glancing at the janitor standing near the hangar doors. "Maybe our cleaning staff can fly it better than my engineering team." 12 executives chuckled as wind howled through the private airfield outside Chicago. The helicopter, Sterling Aerotech's newest AI-assisted prototype, was grounded, dead in the snow. Daniel Hayes set down his mop. He didn't smile. The S-7 Falcon sat on the tarmac like a $20 million paperweight. Wind battered its carbon fiber frame. Victoria's chief engineer, Marcus Chen, stood beside it with a tablet, shaking his head. "The AI navigation module's corrupted," Marcus said. "Won't interface with the flight controls. We'd need to rebuild the entire system architecture from scratch." "How long?" Victoria asked. 3 weeks. Maybe 4. Victoria's jaw tightened. The defense contract demonstration was in 6 days. 6 days to prove Sterling Aerotech could deliver autonomous flight systems that didn't fail when snow touched the sensors. 6 days before the board questioned her leadership again. "Get Richard on the line," she said. "Tell him I need his team working overnight." Richard Wolf. Her chief technology officer. The man who'd brought Sterling Aerotech from experimental toys to military-grade systems in 7 years. The man who smiled too easily. Daniel watched from the hangar entrance. He'd been mopping this floor for 3 months. Night shift. Invisible. The executives barely registered his existence. But he registered everything, especially the S-7's diagnostic readout on Marcus's tablet. He'd seen that error signature before. 7 winters ago. Different company, different life. Same broken code. Daniel walked forward. His footsteps echoed in the hangar. "Ma'am," he said. Victoria turned. "We're handling this." "The error code," Daniel said. "It's not corruption." Marcus frowned. "Excuse me?" The module's locked in archive mode. Someone buried a failsafe protocol in the navigation core. The system thinks it's been decommissioned. Silence. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "And you know this how?" Daniel met her gaze. "Because I wrote failsafes like that, before I mopped floors." More silence. Marcus laughed nervously. "With respect, this is advanced aerospace engineering." "Let him try," Victoria said. The words cut through the wind. Marcus blinked. "Ma'am, if he's wrong, we've lost nothing. If he's right." Victoria looked at Daniel. "How long?" 10 minutes. You have 7. Daniel climbed into the cockpit. The smell hit him first. New leather, hydraulic fluid, de-icing compound. Then, the screen. The S-7's interface glowed pale blue. Navigation system offline. Flight controls unresponsive. Diagnostics frozen. But underneath the surface errors, Daniel saw the ghost. A buried file structure. Hidden directories. Archive protocols that shouldn't exist in production software. His fingers moved across the emergency access panel. He bypassed 3 encryption layers. Found the diagnostic route. And there it was. Archive Wolf. 9. Daniel's breath caught. Wolf. Richard Wolf. And the number 9. Project designation. The same numbering system they'd used at Polaris Labs. Before everything burned, Daniel entered the override sequence. His hands remembered the pattern. 7 years hadn't erased muscle memory. The screen flickered. Navigation systems online. Flight controls responsive. Rotor ignition ready. The S-7's turbines began to whine. Outside, Marcus stumbled backward. Victoria's expression didn't change, but her hand gripped the hangar door frame. The rotors turned. Snow scattered in violent circles. Daniel shut down the engines, climbed out of the cockpit, walked back to where Victoria stood. 12 executives stared. "It'll fly now," Daniel said quietly. Victoria studied him. "Who are you?" "Someone who used to build systems like this. Why are you mopping floors?" Daniel looked at the helicopter, at the snow, at the faces watching him. "Because 7 years ago, everything I built was stolen. and the man who stole it works for you." He pulled a USB drive from his pocket, handed it to Victoria. "That's the archive signature. Richard Wolf's project designation from Polaris Labs. He embedded it in your navigation core like a watermark. Probably didn't think anyone would ever look deep enough to find it." Victoria took the drive. "Who are you?" she asked again. "Daniel Andrew Hayes," he said. "I built that system 7 years ago, before your CTO stole it." Victoria sat alone in her office on the 47th floor. Chicago sprawled below. Snow turned the city into static. The USB drive lay on her desk. She'd dismissed the executives, sent Marcus home, told Richard she'd handle the S7 situation personally. Now she searched. Daniel Andrew Hayes. The first result made her pause. Polaris Labs. Chief AI Architect, 2014 to 2018. Specialized in adaptive navigation systems and biometric feedback integration. The second result was an obituary. Anna Marie Hayes, beloved wife of Daniel Hayes, passed away the 14th of February 2019 after a long battle with congenital heart disease. She is survived by her husband and daughter, Lily Hayes, age 6 months. Victoria clicked deeper. Patent applications, 3 of them, filed 2017 to 2018, all under Daniel's name, all relating to AI-assisted flight navigation with real-time environmental adaptation, all abandoned. She opened the 4th search result. Polaris Labs declares bankruptcy, March 2019. The Chicago-based aviation AI startup collapsed following the death of founder Daniel Hayes' wife and the departure of key engineering talent to Sterling Aerotech. Victoria's chest tightened. She opened her company's hiring records. Richard Wolf, Chief Technology Officer, hired April 2019, 1 month after Polaris folded. She pulled Richard's original contract, read the fine print. Intellectual property clause. All prior work experience and proprietary knowledge shall be considered assets of Sterling Aerotech upon hire. Legal, clean, bulletproof. Except Daniel had built the systems first. Victoria's phone buzzed. Richard Wolf, mobile. She declined the call. It rang again immediately. She answered. "We need to talk," Richard said. His voice was smooth. Too smooth. "About what?" "About the janitor who thinks he's an engineer." Victoria said nothing. "I heard what happened at the hangar," Richard continued. "I want you to know that Daniel Hayes is, let's say, troubled. He had a breakdown after his wife died. Left the industry. If he's making claims about intellectual property, it's grief-talking, conspiracy thinking. The man mops floors, Victoria. He fixed the S7 inches 7 minutes. Pause. Anyone with basic diagnostic training could have. He identified an archive protocol that your team missed, bypassed 3 encryption layers, and he knew your project designation from Polaris. Longer pause. "I don't know what he told you. He gave me evidence," Victoria said. "I'm reviewing it now." "Evidence of what?" "That's what I'm determining." She heard Richard breathe. "I've given 7 years to this company," he said quietly. "Built everything we have from the ground up. If you're going to question my integrity based on what a janitor whispers in a snowstorm, I'm not questioning anything yet, but I will be conducting a thorough audit of our AI systems, origin documentation, development timelines, authorship verification. That's unnecessary. It's protocol. I'll have the legal team start tomorrow." Victoria ended the call. She sat in the dark office, opened the USB drive Daniel had given her. Inside, a single file. Wolf, 9, archive. Log. She opened it. Metadata, timestamps, original authorship signatures, every line of code in the S7's navigation core. Dated between June 2017 and January 2019. Author, D.A. Hayes. Not Richard Wolf, Daniel Andrew Hayes. Victoria's phone rang again. Different number. "Unlisted," she answered. "The ghost is back," a voice said. Richard, calling from a burner. What? I said, the ghost is back. I buried him 7 years ago, and he's back. You need to understand something, Victoria. Daniel Hayes is dangerous. Not physically, psychologically. He's obsessed. He blames me for his wife's death because I succeeded where he failed. I'll send you the psychiatric evaluations. The restraining order he violated. There's no restraining order in any public record. Silence. Private settlement, Richard said. Sealed. But I have copies. Send them. I will. And Victoria, be careful. Men like Daniel, men who've lost everything, they don't think rationally. They build narratives. They see theft where there was only opportunity. Victoria hung up. She looked out at the snow. Somewhere in this city, Daniel Hayes was going home to his daughter. Somewhere in this city, Richard Wolfe was making calls. And somewhere in the code, the truth was buried. Victoria opened her laptop. She had work to do. The air felt colder than the storm outside. Daniel's apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building that had seen better decades. The radiator clanked. The windows rattled. But it was warm, and it was theirs. He unlocked the door at 11:47 p.m. Lily was asleep on the couch. Mrs. Chen, the neighbor who watched her during night shifts, sat in the kitchen with tea. She waited up until 10, Mrs. Chen whispered. Made you a drawing. Daniel looked at the coffee table. Construction paper. Crayons scattered like confetti. 3 figures. A tall man. A small girl. And between them, floating, an angel with yellow hair. Beneath the drawing, in careful 7-year-old letters, Daddy. Me and Mommy in heaven. Daniel's throat tightened. She asked if Mommy could see snow from heaven. Mrs. Chen said gently. I told her yes. I hope that was okay. That's perfect. Thank you. Mrs. Chen gathered her coat. She's a good girl, Daniel. Anna would be proud. After she left, Daniel sat beside Lily. She stirred, opened her eyes. Daddy? Hey, baby. Did you fix the broken thing? She always asked. Every night. As if his job was repairing the world. I did. Good. She sat up, rubbing her eyes. Can we make pancakes? It's almost midnight. Midnight pancakes are better. Daniel smiled. Okay. They went to the kitchen. Lily pulled her step stool to the counter. Daniel got the mix. Eggs, milk. 2 scoops, Lily instructed. 2 scoops, Daniel confirmed. She cracked an egg. Shell fragments tumbled in. Oops. It's okay. We'll fish them out. They worked in comfortable silence. The pancakes sizzled. Lily watched the bubbles form. Daddy? Yeah? Why don't you fix flying things anymore? Daniel flipped a pancake. What do you mean? Mrs. Chen said you used to build helicopters. Before Mommy went to heaven. Daniel's hand paused. I did. Why did you stop? How do you explain to a 7-year-old that you stopped because your wife died while you were trying to build a system to save her? That you'd poured everything into an AI that could monitor her heart, predict failures, call for help before the crisis hit? That you'd been 3 months from completion when her heart gave out at 2 a.m. while you were at the lab? That the code, all of it, had been stolen by a man who saw opportunity in your grief? I stopped because I needed to be home more, Daniel said. With you. Lily nodded solemnly. Because I was little. Yeah, I'm bigger now. You are. So maybe you could fix flying things again. If you wanted, Daniel plated the pancakes. Added butter. Syrup. They sat at the small table. Lily drew patterns in her syrup. Mommy's watching, right? She asked. Always. Then she saw you fix the helicopter today. Daniel looked at his daughter. 7 years old. Anna's eyes. The only thing he hadn't failed. Yeah, he said quietly. She saw. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. But something made him check. Victoria Sterling. Sterling Aerotech. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Daniel stared at the message. Lily noticed. Is it work? Yeah. Good work or scary work? I don't know yet. She reached across the table, took his hand. If it's scary, just remember Mommy's watching. She'll help you be brave. Daniel squeezed her hand. When did you get so smart? I was born smart. You just didn't notice. They finished their pancakes. Daniel tucked Lily into bed. She held her stuffed rabbit, the one Anna had given her before she died. Daddy? Yeah, baby? If you go fix the scary thing tomorrow, come home after. Okay? I promise. And if the bad people try to stop you, just be like in the movies. The good guy always wins. Daniel kissed her forehead. Always. He turned off the light, stood in the hallway. Through the thin walls, he heard Mrs. Chen's television, the radiator's rhythmic clank, the wind against the windows. 7 years. 7 years of invisible work. Night shifts. Silence. 7 years of letting Richard Wolfe build an empire on stolen foundations. 7 years of being a ghost. Daniel looked at Lily's drawing on the refrigerator. 3 figures. His phone buzzed again. He didn't check it. Tomorrow would come whether he was ready or not. He made coffee and began preparing for war. Victoria's office was glass and steel and silence. Daniel arrived at 6:53 del mattino. The receptionist wasn't there yet. The executive floor was empty, but Victoria's light was on. He knocked. Come in. She sat behind her desk. 2 monitors, legal documents, the USB drive, and across from her, an empty chair. Sit, she said. Daniel sat. Victoria studied him. I spent the night reading. The patent applications are yours. The authorship metadata is yours. The development timeline predates Richard's employment here by 18 months. Daniel waited. But none of that is admissible in court without the original development environment. Server logs. Version control history. Witness testimony from Polaris Labs. Polaris doesn't exist anymore. Exactly. Victoria leaned back. So, what I have is compelling evidence that Richard Wolfe appropriated your work. What I don't have is proof that would survive legal challenge. You want proof. I want the truth. Daniel looked out the window. Chicago was waking up. Anna had a heart condition, he said quietly. Congenital. Progressive. We knew from the beginning she wouldn't see 40. Victoria didn't interrupt. I built the AI system to save her. Real-time biometric monitoring, predictive algorithms. It would have called emergency services before her heart failed, given her minutes instead of seconds. He paused. I was 3 months from deployment, working 18-hour days. Richard was my partner at Polaris, brilliant engineer, ruthless businessman. He kept telling me to slow down. Take time with Anna, be present, but you didn't. No. I thought I had time. I thought the system would buy us time. Daniel's hands tightened. She died at home. I was at the lab. Lily was 6 months old. By the time I got there, the paramedics were already leaving. The office was silent. I fell apart, Daniel said. Couldn't work, couldn't think. Polaris had no backup leadership. Investors pulled out. We folded in 6 weeks. And Richard took everything, server backups, development files, prototype hardware. He told me it was for safekeeping, that we'd rebuild when I was ready. Daniel looked at Victoria. 2 months later, he was your CTO, pitching navigation systems that I'd designed, using my wife's death to build his career. Victoria's expression didn't change. I filed a complaint, Daniel continued. I had no proof of ownership that survived bankruptcy proceedings. So you gave up. I had a 6-month-old daughter and no wife. I didn't give up. I chose Lily. Victoria stood, walked to the window. I built this company on innovation, she said. I don't tolerate theft, but I also can't destroy my CTO without ironclad evidence. I know. So I'm going to offer you something. She turned. A partnership. You work with me. We audit every system Richard's touched. Find the proof. Build the case. And when we have enough, we end him. Daniel stared. Why would you risk that? Because I don't like being lied to. And because your daughter deserves to see her father's name on his own work. She extended her hand. Partners? Daniel looked at her hand. At the glass office. At the city beyond. 7 years. 7 years of silence. He shook her hand. Partners. Victoria's grip was firm. I need to know something, she said. If we do this, if we expose Richard, it won't just be corporate consequences. He'll fight back. He'll make it personal. Can you handle that? Daniel thought of Lily, of Anna's drawing on the refrigerator, of 7 years mopping floors while the man who stole his life collected awards. Victoria nodded. Then we start today. I'll set up a secure workspace. You'll have access to our entire development archive. Richard can't know what we're doing. He already knows something's wrong. Then we work fast. Daniel stood. They faced each other. Outside, snow fell across Chicago. One more thing, Victoria said. When this is over, when we've exposed him, I want you to take his job. Daniel blinked. What? Chief Technology Officer. Full restoration of credit for your work. Your name on every patent. Your face in every press release. I'm a janitor. You're the architect who built the foundation of this company's success. You just didn't get paid for it. Daniel looked at the woman who'd mocked him 24 hours ago, who now stood offering him everything he'd lost. I have a daughter, he said. I can't work 18-hour days. Then we'll build a company that doesn't require it. Family leave, flexible hours, whatever you need. Victoria smiled. It was the first time he'd seen her smile. Welcome back, Mr. Hayes. They stood before the glass window. Below them, Chicago moved through the snow. And somewhere in that city, Richard Wolfe was about to discover that ghosts don't stay buried forever. Richard Wolfe's office was smaller than Victoria's but more expensively decorated. Abstract art, imported furniture. A view of the lake. He sat at his desk, phone pressed to his ear. I need everything, he said. Financial records, court documents, medical history, and anything involving the daughter. The voice on the other end confirmed. Richard ended the call, opened his laptop, typed, Daniel Andrew Hayes, Vulnerability Assessment. The private investigator's preliminary report loaded. Subject: Daniel Andrew Hayes, age 38. Current residence: 2847 Thornton Ave, Apt 3B, Chicago. Employment: night custodian. Sterling Aerotech, 3 months. Dependents: Lily Catherine Hayes, age 7. Custody: full, sole surviving parent. Financial status: paycheck to paycheck. No savings, no assets. Psychological profile: isolated. Minimal social contact. Entire life centers on daughter. Richard leaned back. The daughter. Always the daughter. He made a note. Leverage point? Custody threat. His phone rang. Internal extension. Michael Grant. From IT Security. Sir, I need to report something. Go ahead. Victoria Sterling requested full access logs for your development projects, going back 7 years. She also isolated our backup servers for a private audit. Richard's jaw tightened. When? This morning. 7 a.m. 30 minutes after her meeting with Daniel, who's conducting the audit. She didn't say. She locked the access credentials to her personal authorization. Richard thought. Thank you, Michael. I'll handle it. He ended the call. Stood. Walked to the window. Victoria thought she was being clever. Thought she could investigate quietly. But Richard had built his career on reading 3 moves ahead. He pulled out his second phone. Texted. Phase 2. Proceed. The response came immediately. Confirmed. Richard smiled. Let them audit. Let them search for proof. They'd find only what he wanted them to find, because he'd spent 7 years burying the trail, covering the signatures, rewriting history. And if they pushed too hard, he'd push back harder. 47 floors below, Daniel sat in a windowless server room. Victoria had given him access. 3 monitors. external drives. Backup archives going back to Sterling Aerotech's founding. He started with the S7 navigation core, pulled the source code, began tracing authorship, every function, every module, every comment line. His work was there, hidden beneath layers of refactoring. But there, like fossils in sediment, he documented everything. Screenshots, metadata, comparison logs. 8 hours later, Victoria returned. Findings? Daniel turned. 73% of the core system is directly lifted from my Polaris work. He changed variable names, restructured some functions, added wrapper code to obscure the origin. But it's mine. Proof? I have the development patterns. Coding style analysis. Even some of my original comments buried in deprecated sections. Victoria nodded. That's not enough for court. But it's enough for the board. When? 2 weeks. I'll call an emergency session. You'll present the evidence. We'll give Richard a chance to respond. He'll deny everything. Of course. But denial won't save him when the metadata speaks. Victoria paused. He's going to come after you. You know that. I know. Can you handle it? Daniel thought of Lily, of the drawing on the refrigerator. He's already taken 7 years. He can't take anything else. Victoria studied him. You're wrong. He can take your daughter. The words hung in the air. What? Custody challenges. Anonymous tips to child services. Questions about your mental fitness. He'll dig for anything he can weaponize. Daniel's blood went cold. Lily's safe. Is she? You work nights. You barely make rent. One well-placed call from a concerned citizen, and social services starts asking questions. Daniel stood. Then we move faster. No, we move smarter. Victoria handed him a business card. Catherine Morrison, family law attorney. I've already retained her. If Richard makes a move, we'll know immediately. Daniel took the card. Why are you doing this? Victoria met his eyes. Because I hate bullies. And because your daughter's drawing is on my desk right now, and I'll be damned if that little girl loses her father to a man like Richard Wolfe. Daniel looked at the monitors, at the code, at 7 years of theft laid bare in metadata and timestamps. 2 weeks, he said. 2 weeks, Victoria confirmed. Outside, night fell over Chicago, and somewhere in the city, Richard Wolfe was planning his next move. But so was Daniel Hayes, and ghosts, he'd learned, could fight back. Richard Wolfe's cabin sat on the Michigan shore, 40 miles north of Chicago, private, isolated, hidden behind pines and winter silence. Daniel stood in the tree line, watching. Victoria was beside him, dressed in black, breath misting in the cold. "You're sure he's not here?" she asked. "Board dinner downtown. Won't be back until midnight. And you're sure there's evidence inside?" Daniel looked at the cabin. Richard kept backups of everything. Personal insurance. Victoria checked her watch. "We have 3 hours." They moved through the snow. The cabin security was high-end. Cameras, motion sensors, biometric locks. But Daniel had watched Richard disable the system 100 times during their Polaris days. Watched him punch in codes. Watched him cut corners because he thought he was smarter than the system. Daniel found the external panel. Entered the master override. 042987. Richard's birthday. The locks disengaged. They slipped inside. The cabin smelled like leather and wood smoke. Minimal furniture, expensive electronics. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the frozen lake. "Server room?" Victoria asked. "Basement." Daniel led the way. The basement was unfinished concrete, climate-controlled, and against the far wall, behind a false panel, was Richard's personal server array. 4 rack-mounted units, offline. Air-gapped, completely isolated from any network. Daniel pulled the panel away, connected a portable drive, powered up the first server. The boot sequence lit the darkness. Victoria kept watch at the stairs. How long? 20 minutes to mirror the drives. Make it 15. Daniel worked. File directories populated. He searched Polaris. 53 results. He opened the first. Acquisition Strategy. 2019. Do CXE. His hands froze. The document loaded. Target. Daniel Andrew Hayes. Recommendation. Industry Elimination. Assets. AI Navigation Architecture. Biometric Integration Protocols. Adaptive Learning Models. Acquisition Method. Exploit Personal Crisis. Extract during Bankruptcy Liquidation. Timeline. February, April 2019. Risk Assessment. Subject is emotionally compromised following spouse death. Low probability of legal challenge. High probability of withdrawal from industry. Daniel's vision blurred. Daniel? Victoria's voice was sharp. What is it? He couldn't speak. She crossed the basement. Read the screen. Her face went hard. Copy everything. Now. Daniel's hands moved mechanically. He copied the file. Opened the next. Hayes, patent, rewrite, notes. TXT. Instructions for stripping his authorship signatures from code, replacing them with Richard's. Backdating commits. Falsifying development logs. Every step documented. Every crime preserved. Victoria's phone buzzed. She checked it. Went pale. Richard's car just passed the highway exit. He's 10 minutes out. What? He left early. Daniel. We need to leave now. Not yet. Daniel grabbed the portable drive. The download was at 68%. 72. 79. Footsteps on the porch above. Victoria grabbed Daniel's arm. We're out of time. 86%. The front door opened. Richard's voice. I know you're here. Daniel yanked the drive free. Victoria killed the server lights. They moved toward the basement stairs, but Richard was already there, standing at the top, silhouetted against the hall light. Hello, Daniel. Daniel stopped. Richard descended slowly. I have to admit, I'm impressed. Breaking into my home. Stealing my property. You've come a long way from the man who cried at his wife's funeral. These are my files, Daniel said. Your work? Richard laughed. You abandoned that work. You gave up. I salvaged it, improved it, turned it into something profitable. You stole it. I saved it from dying with your career. Victoria stepped forward. Richard, this is over. We have the evidence. The acquisition strategy. The authorship rewrites. Everything. Richard looked at her. You really think those files will survive discovery? I've got lawyers who will bury you in motions for 5 years. Your daughter will be old enough to understand that her father chose revenge over her stability. Daniel moved before he thought. 3 steps. His hand was around Richard's throat, slammed him against the concrete wall. Say her name again, Daniel whispered. Say it. Richard's face reddened. But he smiled. Lily, he choked out. Sweet little Lily. How's she going to visit you in prison? How's she going to… Daniel's grip tightened. Victoria's voice cut through. Daniel, don't. He threatened my daughter, and if you kill him, he wins. Lily loses her father. Richard becomes the victim. Everything we've worked for disappears. Daniel's hand shook. Richard's eyes were bulging. Daniel, Victoria said quietly, let him go. Seconds stretched. Then Daniel released. Richard collapsed, gasping. Daniel stepped back, looked at his hands, at Richard, at everything that had brought him here. I'm not going to kill you, Daniel said. He held up the portable drive. Every file, every email, every instruction you gave to strip my name from my work. It's all here, and in 48 hours, the board of directors will see every word. Richard coughed. You're bluffing. Am I? Daniel turned to Victoria. We're done here. They climbed the stairs. Richard's voice followed. If you do this, if you present that evidence, I'll destroy you. I'll call child services. I'll make sure Lily… Victoria turned. One more threat toward that child, and I'll personally ensure you're charged with harassment. We have this conversation recorded." She held up her phone. Audio waveforms dancing on the screen. Richard went silent. Daniel and Victoria walked out. Into the snow. Into the night. Behind them, the cabin stood dark. Daniel's hands were still shaking. "You okay?" Victoria asked. "Good. You shouldn't be." They reached the car. Daniel looked back one last time. Richard stood in the window, watching. "He's going to fight," Daniel said. "I know. It's going to get worse." "I know." Victoria started the engine. "But we have the truth now. And the truth is a weapon he can't destroy." They drove back toward Chicago. The snow fell harder. And behind them, in the cabin by the frozen lake, Richard Wolff began making calls. The emergency board meeting was called for 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. 16 directors. 3 legal advisors. Victoria, Richard, and Daniel. The conference room occupied the entire north side of the 47th floor. Glass walls, lake views, a table that could seat 30. Daniel wore his only suit. It didn't fit right anymore. Victoria sat at the head of the table. Richard sat opposite her, flanked by 2 attorneys. The board members filed in. Confused, annoyed at the short notice. Victoria stood. "Thank you for coming. We have a serious matter to address regarding intellectual property and corporate ethics." Murmurs. Richard's lead attorney, a woman named Diane Chen, stood. "Mrs. Sterling, my client was given no advance notice of these accusations. This violates—" "Your client will have every opportunity to respond," Victoria said. "But first, the board will hear the evidence." She nodded to Daniel. He stood, connected his laptop to the room's presentation system. 47 slides. He'd built them over 6 sleepless nights. Slide 1. Intellectual property theft and corporate fraud. An evidence summary. The room went quiet. Daniel's hands steadied. "My name is Daniel Andrew Hayes. 7 years ago, I was the chief AI architect at Polaris Labs. I developed the core navigation systems that Sterling Aerotech now uses in its autonomous flight platforms." He clicked. Slide 2. Patent applications. His name. The dates. These are the original patents, filed between 2017 and 2018. You'll note the authorship. Slide 3. The S7 source code, side by side with his Polaris work. This is a comparison analysis. 73% identical structure, same variable naming conventions, same algorithmic approaches, even the same comments in deprecated sections. One of the board members, Thomas Reed, silver-haired, former Air Force, leaned forward. "Mr. Hayes, are you claiming that Mr. Wolff stole your work?" "I'm not claiming. I'm demonstrating." Slide 4. Metadata timestamps. Every line of code has an author, signature, and creation date. This metadata shows original authorship between June 2017 and January 2019. Before Richard Wolff was employed at Sterling Aerotech, Richard stood. "This is absurd. That metadata could be falsified." "Sit down, Richard," Victoria said. "I will not sit here while—" "Sit down." Richard sat. Daniel continued. Slide 12. The Polaris bankruptcy filing. Slide 18. Richard's hiring date. Slide 24. Email correspondence between Richard and former Polaris investors discussing asset acquisition during dissolution. Slide 31. The acquisition strategy document. When that one loaded, the room went silent. Daniel read aloud. Target. Daniel Andrew Hayes. Recommendation. Industry elimination. Acquisition method. Exploit personal crisis. He looked at Richard. "My wife died in February 2019. You attended her funeral. You told me to take all the time I needed. And while I was grieving, you were copying my servers." Richard's face was stone. Diane Chen stood. Allegations without corroborating. Slide 34, Daniel said. Server logs, backup timestamps, external drive access records. The 17th of February 2019, 3 days after my wife's death, your client accessed Polaris Labs' backup servers and copied 847 gigabytes of data, including every development file I'd ever created. He clicked through the remaining slides. File comparisons, code analysis, authorship patterns, 47 slides of evidence. When he finished, the room was silent. Thomas Reed spoke first. Richard. Richard stood slowly, straightened his tie, looked at each board member. Yes, I acquired assets from Polaris Labs during their bankruptcy. That's legal. Standard business practice. I saw value in the technology. I restructured it, improved it, and I brought it to Sterling Aerotech, where it became the foundation of our success. You stole it, Daniel said. I salvaged it. There's a difference. The metadata can be interpreted multiple ways. Yes, the original architecture bears similarities to Polaris work. Because I was part of that team, I contributed to those systems. You were a junior engineer. I was a partner. And when you abandoned the company, when you chose to fall apart instead of fighting, I saved what could be saved. Richard's voice hardened. You want to talk about theft? Let's talk about responsibility. Your wife was dying, and you were in the lab. 18-hour days. Chasing a system that was never going to work. You failed her, Daniel. And then you failed the company. And now 7 years later, you want to blame me for picking up the pieces. Daniel felt the words like a punch. The room blurred. Richard continued. If you'd been stronger, if you'd prioritized her instead of your ego, she might still be alive. Daniel's chest tightened. He saw Anna, in the hospital bed, alone, while he debugged code 40 miles away. Daniel? Victoria's voice was distant. The slides swam. Richard's smile was sharp. The truth hurts, doesn't it? You're not here for justice. You're here because you can't live with your own guilt. And if you think these stolen files, he gestured at the screen, are going to erase what you did to your wife, that's enough. Victoria stood. Board members, we'll take a 30-minute recess. Then we'll vote on Mr. Wolf's immediate suspension, pending a full investigation. Richard's smile faded. Based on the evidence presented, I'm recommending your immediate removal from all engineering operations and a complete forensic audit of every system you've touched. Diane Chen stepped forward. Mrs. Sterling, you cannot unilaterally. I'm not acting unilaterally. I'm presenting a motion to the board. Thomas Reed nodded. Seconded. Richard's face went red. You're making a mistake. All of you. This company was built on my work. It was built on stolen work, Victoria said. And now we're going to prove it. Security appeared at the door. Victoria nodded. Mr. Wolf, you're suspended effective immediately. Please surrender your credentials and leave the building. Richard stared. Then he laughed. You think this is over? You think you've won? He looked at Daniel. Enjoy your victory, while it lasts. Because I'm going to make sure you lose everything that matters. He walked toward the door, paused beside Daniel, whispered. If you'd been a better husband, Anna would have lived to see your daughter grow up. Then he was gone. Daniel stood frozen. The board members began filing out. Victoria approached. Daniel? He couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Because Richard's words weren't an attack. They were the truth he'd been running from for 7 years. Daniel didn't remember leaving the building. One moment he was in the conference room. The next he was sitting in his car in the parking garage. His phone was ringing. Mrs. Chen, he answered. Daniel? I've been calling for an hour. Are you okay? Yeah. Lily's asking for you. She wants to know if you're coming home for dinner. Home. Dinner. Normal words from a normal world. I'll be there, Daniel said. Are you sure you're... I'm fine. Tell her. I'm fine. He ended the call. Sat in the dark car. If you'd been stronger, she might still be alive. The words echoed. He thought of Anna. The last morning. She'd asked him to stay home, said she felt off, and he'd kissed her forehead and said he had to finish the integration tests. Just today, Daniel. Tomorrow I'll take you to your lab myself. Tomorrow, he'd promised. There was no tomorrow. By midnight, she was gone. And the system that was supposed to save her, sat 90% complete on his desk while the paramedics covered her body. Daniel's phone rang again. Victoria. He let it ring. It went to voicemail. Rang again. He answered. Daniel, where are you? Parking garage. Stay there. I'm coming down. I need to go home. 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes. She hung up. Daniel waited. The elevator doors opened. Victoria appeared, walked to his car, knocked on the window. He unlocked the door. She slid into the passenger seat. Talk to me, she said. I'm fine. You're not. Daniel stared at the concrete wall. He's right, he said quietly. I failed her. I was in the lab, working on a system to save her. And while I was there, she died alone. If I'd been home, she would have died anyway, Victoria said. Daniel, you read the medical reports. Her heart was failing. There was nothing you could have done. I could have been there. Yes. And you would have watched her die, instead of working to build something that might have saved her. Daniel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. You loved her, Victoria said. That wasn't weakness. That was everything. I chose wrong. You chose the only thing that made sense to you. You tried to fix the unfixable. That's not weakness. That's being human. She paused. Richard wants you to believe that loving her was your failure. But it wasn't. Your failure was letting him make you disappear. Daniel looked at her. For 7 years, you've hidden, Victoria said. Mopped floors. Kept your head down. Let Richard build an empire on your work, while you convinced yourself you deserved nothing. I was protecting Lily. By teaching her that her father is invisible, that stolen work doesn't deserve justice. That's not protection. That's surrender. The words hit hard. Daniel thought of Lily's drawing. 3 figures. Daddy. What would Anna say if she could speak? Would she want him hiding? Would she want Richard winning? What do I do? Daniel asked. You fight. Not for revenge. Not even for yourself. For Lily. Victoria opened the car door. The board votes in 3 days. They're going to ask you questions. Challenge your evidence. Richard's lawyers will attack everything. She looked back. So you have 3 days to decide if you're a janitor who got lucky or an engineer who's taking back what's his. She left. Daniel sat alone. His phone buzzed. Text from Mrs. Chen. Lily made you a picture. A superhero. She says it's you. Attached. A crayon drawing. A stick figure in a cape, flying above buildings, above clouds, above everything. Daniel looked at the drawing, thought of Anna, of 7 years, of Richard's smile, of the truth buried in metadata and stolen code. He started the car, drove toward home, toward Lily, toward whatever came next. But this time, he wasn't running. This time, he was flying. The board vote took 17 minutes. Unanimous. Richard Wolff was terminated for intellectual property theft, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. Sterling Aerotech released a statement at 4 p.m. Following an internal investigation, Richard Wolff has been removed from his position as Chief Technology Officer. The company is conducting a comprehensive review of all proprietary systems. We are committed to ethical practices and proper attribution of intellectual property. By 6 p.m., the tech press had the story. By 8 p.m., it was national news. Corporate espionage uncovered. Janitor exposes CTO's 7-year theft, from mop to microchip. Single father reclaims stolen AI systems. Sterling Aerotech CTO, fired after whistleblower reveals patent fraud. Daniel's phone didn't stop ringing. Reporters, lawyers, former colleagues. He ignored them all. Victoria called at 9 p.m. Have you seen the coverage? Some of it. Good. Because tomorrow morning, we're holding a press conference. You're going to tell your story. Victoria. Daniel, this isn't optional. The narrative is being written right now. If you don't speak, someone else will speak for you. Pause. What do I say? The truth. Who you are. What you built. What was taken. What you're building now. I don't know what I'm building. Yes, you do. You're building a life where your daughter sees her father stand up. That's what you say. The call ended. Daniel looked at Lily. She was at the kitchen table, doing homework. Mrs. Chen had gone home. It was just them. Daddy? Lily looked up. There are people outside. Daniel went to the window. 3 news vans. Cameras. Reporters. He closed the curtain. It's okay, baby. Are you in trouble? No. The opposite. What's the opposite of trouble? Daniel sat beside her. Justice. Lily considered this. Like in the movies? Kind of. Does that mean you're the good guy now? I was always the good guy. People just didn't know it. Lily smiled. I knew it. She went back to her homework. Daniel watched her. 7 years old. Anna's eyes. His stubbornness. Tomorrow, the world would know his name. Know what had been stolen. Know what he'd fought to reclaim. But tonight he helped Lily with fractions. Made dinner. Gave her a bath. Read her 3 stories. And when she fell asleep, he sat in the living room. The apartment was quiet. Outside, the news vans waited. Daniel's phone buzzed. Email from Victoria. Subject: tomorrow's statement. He opened it. A draft press release. Daniel Andrew Hayes, former chief architect at Polaris Labs and the original designer of Sterling Aerotech's AI navigation systems, will speak publicly for the first time since the revelation of extensive intellectual property theft by former CTO Richard Wolff. Mr. Hayes will discuss his 7-year journey from innovation to invisibility and his decision to reclaim his work, not for himself, but for his daughter. Daniel read it twice, changed 2 words, sent it back. Victoria replied immediately. Perfect. Daniel looked at Anna's photo on the shelf. Wedding day. Smiling. Alive. I did it, he whispered. I don't know if it matters, but I did it. The photo didn't answer, but somewhere, wherever she was, he hoped she knew. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. You think you've won? Richard's voice. I think you're finished, Daniel said. I still have connections. Resources. Lawyers who'll drag this out for years. Then we'll fight for years. And what about Lily? What happens when she's 10 and her father's still in depositions? When she's 15 and her college fund is gone because you chose pride over pragmatism? Daniel was quiet. You could have stayed invisible, Richard said. Safe, anonymous. But you chose war. And now she'll pay the price. No, Daniel said. You'll pay the price. For 7 years of theft. For Anna. For every person you've stepped on. He ended the call, blocked the number, sat in the dark apartment. Outside, Chicago hummed. Tomorrow, he'd speak. Tomorrow, the world would know. But tonight he was just a father who'd finally stopped running. And that, Daniel realized, was enough. The press conference lasted 43 minutes. Daniel spoke for 12 of them. He told them about Polaris. About Anna. About the system he'd built to save her. About the theft. About 7 years mopping floors. About Lily. I didn't do this for revenge, he said. I did it so my daughter would grow up knowing that what's stolen can be reclaimed. That silence isn't safety. That her father's name means something. The questions came fast. Reporters, cameras, microphones. Victoria stood beside him. Answered the legal questions. Confirmed the evidence. Announced that Daniel would be joining Sterling Aerotech as Chief Innovation Officer, not CTO, because that title still tasted like Richard with full credit restoration for all his original work. By noon, it was over. Daniel left through a side exit. Victoria's driver took him home. The news vans were gone. The apartment was quiet. Mrs. Chen was waiting with Lily. I saw you on TV, Mrs. Chen said. You were very brave. Thank you. Lily ran to him. Daddy, you were on the big screen at school. You watched? Mrs. Patterson showed us. She said, "You're a hero." Daniel knelt down. "I'm not a hero, baby. I just did what was right. That's what heroes do." She hugged him. Daniel held her, felt her heartbeat. Steady, strong. Mrs. Chen gathered her things. "I'll see you both tomorrow." After she left, Daniel and Lily sat on the couch. "Can we do something special tonight?" Lily asked. "Like what?" "Can we drive to see the place where Mommy's tree is?" 3 years ago, they'd planted a tree in Anna's memory. A maple, in a small park outside the city. "It's getting dark," Daniel said. "Please? I want to tell her about the TV thing." Daniel looked at his daughter, at her hopeful face. "Okay. Let's go." They drove 40 minutes. The park was empty. Snow still covered the ground, but patches of earth showed through. Spring was coming. The maple stood 20 feet tall now, bare branches reaching toward the evening sky. Lily ran to it, touched the trunk. "Hi, Mommy." Daddy was on TV today. He was really brave. He fixed the scary thing. Daniel stood back, watched his daughter talk to the tree, to Anna. "And guess what? I got an A on my math test. And I drew a picture of you." Daddy put it on the refrigerator. The wind moved through the branches. Lily looked back. "Daddy, do you think she hears me?" Daniel walked over, knelt beside her. "I think she hears every word." "Good." Lily turned back to the tree. "I miss you, Mommy, but Daddy's doing okay. You don't have to worry about us." She kissed her hand, pressed it to the bark, then took Daniel's hand. "Okay, I'm ready to go home." They walked back to the car. Daniel looked at the tree one last time. 7 years, 7 winters, and now finally spring. On the drive back, Lily fell asleep. Daniel carried her up to the apartment, tucked her into bed. She stirred. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby? Did you fix the scary thing?" The question she asked every night. But tonight, for the first time, the answer was different. "Yes," Daniel said. "I did." "Good." She smiled, closed her eyes. "I knew you would. You always fix things." Daniel stood in the doorway, watched her sleep. Outside, Buffalo's night sky was clear. No snow, no storm, just stars. Tomorrow, he'd start his new position. Tomorrow, his name would appear on patents again. Tomorrow, Richard would begin facing consequences. But tonight, Daniel Hayes was just a father, standing in a small apartment, watching his daughter dream. He wasn't invisible anymore. He wasn't a ghost. He was exactly who he'd always been. An engineer, a father, a man who'd lost everything and rebuilt himself one choice at a time. The snow had melted. Spring was coming, and Daniel Hayes, for the first time in 7 years, was ready for it.